Hello, welcome to our Shield of the Sun series. This is Bruce Lee and the Martial Arts, Part 2. So if you haven't watched Part 1, please go back and watch Part 1 so you know where we're at. This family has maintained that religion till this day, and the rulers and the people have forgotten that they once knew the truth. The Lee family are the ruling caste families that rule the governments of today's Asian nations. Their religious practices are different from the general population because of a certain knowledge they know. They know that Satan is real, and that he is a real fallen angel, and that the gods are also fallen angels, and they know about the Nephilim, and they know that the fallen angels have children living as beings or existing as evil spirits. The Lee family not only knows about Satan, they have also made a pact with Satan that goes back as far as the Tower of Babel under Nimrod. The Lee family worships Satan as a fallen angel who rebelled against God and fell from heaven. The general population does not worship their idols under that knowing form, but they worship them under a false and diluted form of tradition. Since the Lee ruling families worship Satan, one must also know as well that Satan, although has to admit the existence and kingship of Jesus Christ, Satan has also lied to the Lee family regarding the truth by stating that there is a misunderstanding about the war in heaven and that him and Jesus are brothers and that he is going to win the war being fought now over the souls of the human race, that he created the human race and so forth, in which his lies run thick. All of this is a lie, of course, but the Lee family believes it, and so did Bruce and his family as well. So therefore, the Lee Illuminati family worships Satan in a more personal and real form, like all the Illuminati families do. It is a fact their traditional religion to worship Lucifer as the bringer of all the religions of the gods and goddesses, which includes Buddhism and philosophy. Throughout the family tree of the Lee family, from the wealthiest and powerful among them to the middle-class humble of them, like Bruce and his family were, the tradition of the Illuminati religion is always passed on to them from father to son. And if the father, let's say he dies young or does not want to, then someone in the family, usually the father's brother, teaches them instead. The Lucifer religion is traditional and hereditary down the members of the Lee Illuminati families from the greatest to the least, and the same is the case for all the Illuminati bloodline members of the 13 families. So therefore a father's job is to his sons and even to his daughters is to basically teach and practice satanic worship in his family. Bruce's family, regarding himself and his father, were a middle-class, humble Lee Illuminati family clan. This clan were known to be spiritual guru teachers or entertainers, or sometimes both at the same time. They were skilled in philosophy, martial arts, singing, and comedy and acting. Bruce's father was an actor looking to become rich and famous among the Hong Kong Hollywood scene. Soon after he worked his skills for the Hong Kong filmmakers, Satan approached Bruce's father, whose name was Li Ho Chen, through the agents of the Illuminati, ruling families, in which these agents were members of the Triads, the secret service of the Illuminati, operating throughout Asia, as the CIA does in their hemisphere. In this deal for Satan, if Bruce's father wanted to continue to work for the Hong Kong studio, then he must give up his son to Satan for Satan's purposes regarding him. That son of Li Hao Chen that Satan asked for by name was Li Junfan, the one who became Bruce Lee. This deal was being asked of Bruce's father when Bruce was still in the womb of his mother. One should know that Bruce's family had relatives in the U.S. and San Francisco, and the family, when the deal was struck, went to visit family in San Francisco while Bruce's mother was pregnant with Bruce. This is how Bruce ended up being born in the United States, but what was strange about it is why the family suddenly went to the U.S. at all, especially while Bruce's mother was pregnant. Bruce being born in the U.S. was not a coincidence, it was purposefully done. During the deal that was being struck, Satan wanted Li Hao Chen's child to be born in America to secure his citizenship. Satan stated to Lee's father that he had big plans for his son, and that he should give him the name he calls him, in which Bruce's Chinese name means little dragon. The Triad, speaking for Satan, threatened to end Bruce's father's career by firing him from the Hong Kong studios if he did not comply to the deal. Bruce's father wanted to be famous so bad that he agreed to Satan's deal, and he sold his son to Satan for continued work in Hong Kong that he thought would lead him to fame. The man continued to work, but he never found the fame and riches he was looking for. And when Bruce was born, and in his household, he treated Bruce kindly, but also he was highly distant from him in many ways, because in his heart, Bruce no longer belonged to him, but he belonged to the Illuminati occult instead. As Bruce was growing up, his life was one of education from the start. Bruce was trained and taught to worship the family satanic religion of the Lee family as a matter of honor and tradition, in which such superstitious fear that his father and his family put into him completely blinded him from the truth of Jesus Christ at the time. Bruce not only would have gone through the traditional ceremonial rites of Chinese Buddhist practices, he also would have gone through dark satanic rituals which would have mentally and physically harmed Bruce as a child. Some of these rites would have involved doctrinal teaching, spirit worship and communication, sacrificial offerings involving animals and children, sexual abuse and physical abuse. Bruce was also given a good secular education, and he excelled in literature studies. Bruce was also extensively trained in martial arts, which was a Lee family tradition to learn Kung Fu, and to his father and family's surprise he greatly excelled in it, even quickly going beyond them in this skill. Bruce's Kung Fu teaching was of the Shaolin Temple. Bruce was also extensively trained in the family trade of entertainment. He was taught and showed he was gifted, and not just martial arts, but also acting, comedy, juggling, playing wind instruments, dancing, just to name the main ones. Bruce's father put Bruce to work at a very young age at the Hong Kong studios. Little do people know is that when Bruce was a child, he was a Hong Kong child star. He appeared in several films and television shows, and even his early roles were set up under Satan's plans, as Satan was always behind the scenes in Bruce's life. Bruce's most noted role as a child was on a Chinese television show that featured little boys dressing up as girls and dancing in a provocative way, and also they did comedy as if that was supposed to soften this horrible art form. This was actually a very subversive television show promoting pedophilia among the Chinese people. The show on the outside was supposed to be cute, but actually it was sick and wrong, and even as a child, Bruce knew that to be so. That is also why he never talked about his child star days either. Many of the producers of this show were pedophiles themselves, which by now this should come as no surprise. Truth be told, like many child stars before and after Bruce, they are robbed of their childhood because of double-dealing parents cutting deals with Satan and his people. As a child actor, Bruce worked under his father and did what his father told him to do, even if it hurt young Bruce. Bruce did love his father very much. Even when he died, he was heartbroken by his father's death. And so no matter how wrong the action, Bruce always listened to his father, even when he was wrong. As a child, Bruce was haunted and terrified by evil spirits from the time he was 1.5 to 2 years old and onward. Growing up, Bruce was overcome with fears, worries, and paranoia. From a child, even into manhood, what is hard for people to understand is that Bruce lived in fear every day of his life. His adrenaline was always pumping, and his mind was always racing. Bruce actually feared no man whatsoever, and he had no need to, but yet he was always afraid. That is because, though men did not pose a threat to him, the evil spirits, the demons, always did. They were an enemy he could not punch or kick or outwit. Only Jesus was able to deliver him, and Bruce throughout much of his life did not know who Jesus was in a full truth Bible understanding. Bruce's struggles with evil spirits started at a very young age, already mentioned. Often these spirits would speak fear and dread into his heart. They would plague him with nightmares. They would haunt him by moving objects around, even throwing the objects at him. They would appear in horrifying forms in a visible way to scare Bruce with fear. They even attacked Bruce on several occasions, leaving him shaken, crying, and in a paranoia and in physical pain. Bruce's hauntings were so bad that his family tried to cast spells to protect him, but obviously they didn't work. The spells only deluded Bruce and his family further, who were superstitious, to now a complete fault where actual harm comes to them. Bruce was also demon-possessed, and he had a lot of evil spirits inside him that gave him constant, intense, and extreme headaches and stomach problems. Bruce even talked to personal friends about the night he became possessed, for it happened when he was still a small child. Bruce called this demon a fourth dimensional watcher, and that this being was in him and it haunted him. Bruce was saying that the spirit of a fallen angel possessed him as other demons haunted him. Bruce's condition was not healthy, but he was in a very unhealthy and twisted condition. This is where much of Bruce's violent temper comes from. It is demonic energy that gets a hold of him. When Bruce was first possessed by this spirit, it happened to him as a child. This fallen angel appeared to Bruce as a big black shadow, and then it came toward Bruce and pushed him down to the floor, and it held Bruce there. Bruce tried everything he could to free himself, but the being was far too overpowering. It simply held Bruce there on the floor. As this being was holding him, Bruce could feel a coldness coming over his body, and he began to panic and scream as he got colder and could feel beings enter his body. This being held Bruce on that floor for 10 terrifying minutes, and when the being let go, Bruce was in a cold sweat all over his body, and he soon caught a fever, and he was sick for several days. Growing up, Bruce was known for having sharp and spiritual wisdom for someone his age. He excelled in all of his studies, and his teachers were impressed with his intellectual gifts. But he had a very prideful and, as you know, a demonic temper when pushed or tempted in some way, and he had other bipolar tendencies as well, as high and low moods shifted his personality. Bruce, for all of these horrible things in his life, he was generally a peace-loving man who had gifted wisdom and a good outlook on a wide range of subjects, from taking care of your teeth and body to good exercises. Bruce cannot handle well the wisdom of turning one's cheek. Growing up in Hong Kong and being from an entertainment family and being a child star made Bruce enemies in this life he did not see coming, thanks to the jealousy and pride and the general sinful nature of humankind. Studying martial arts as extensively as Bruce did will make that person constantly to live with enemies. Bruce was already envied by his peers and other people because he was on TV, while so many were not, but they wanted to be. When Lee studied martial arts, many of these peers also studied the art through their families. At school is when the kids will get together, and many times, out of envy, jealousy, or something within pride, they will call honor, like fighting for a girl, or your lunch money, or lunch itself. These kids would challenge each other and use the martial arts on each other. Bruce, throughout his life of growing up in Hong Kong, was constantly involved in fighting or watching fights. Bruce being envied in the first place did not help him, as so often, even when he didn't want to or look for it, he was constantly involved in full contact fighting, anything goes martial arts. Many times he came home bloody from certain injuries, and sometimes the blood wasn't even his. Bruce would get into fights with other child or teenage child acting peers, schoolmates, jealous boyfriends, former friends, neighbors, street gang members, and even foreigners to Hong Kong looking for a fight. Often Bruce's fights took place with other martial art peers who were extensively involved in the art like Bruce and his family were. Many times Bruce fought over family issues from the past involving families who get their kids involved in these bloody fights for some honor or some disrespect, going back to a time where the kids nor the parents were even there, or one form or the other. Over time, as Bruce got older as a young man in Hong Kong, he had a reputation for being unbeatable. He never lost one of these senseless fights. Bruce as a young man had money. He had fame for being a Hong Kong actor. He had friends and girlfriends, and soon he started to slack from his education and wisdom, and began to run with the wild young Hong Kong crowd who rode motorcycles and dominated the nightclub, nightlife scene in Hong Kong.